Welcome back to Voices of the Regenerative Decade. I'm Becca Dakini. So great to be with you here on One Earth Live. I'd like to welcome our next guest, Seth Blaustein. Seth Blaustein is a futurist, filmmaker, immersive festival producer, and creator of the Optimistic Futurism Framework. He's also the founder of Dollar Donation Club, a new micro-donation platform launching very soon that invites all of humanity to contribute to funding audacious social impact challenges and planetary solutions. As a transmedia strategist and director, Seth is passionate about the power of viral storytelling to drive social impact and new paradigm generation. He is the creator of the Future Frontiers Immersive Conference, co-founder and creative director of Good Society, co-founder of the Telepathic Agency, and storyteller-in-chief at unify.org. So welcome, Seth. It's great to have you join us today for Voices of the Regenerative Decade.
Stoked to be here, Becca.
Well, I'd love you to introduce yourself and start talking about how your work could be useful to those focused on planetary solutions and regeneration.
Sure, yeah, thanks. You gave me a great intro there, so there's not too much to add. I'm really passionate about storytelling, and I believe that so much of the way our society interacts and composes itself that's leading to a lot of the ecological destruction we have is coming from deep-rooted story that we all maintain on kind of deep levels. And so I'm very passionate about creating stories, whether it's through video or immersive in-person experiences that help us to see a new paradigm, a new way of being that's more of a unity mentality or a unity consciousness. And so I've been able to express that through a number of different ways, through video with viral video content, which doesn't sound quite as sexy these days in the age of COVID. I've done a handful of videos that have generated a little over 50 million views and raised a couple $2 to $3 million for different causes, working with Pachamama Alliance, with the Standing Rock protest that happened back in 2016. And then with Future Frontiers, it's given me a fantastic opportunity to host a community that's coming together to redefine the paradigms that ultimately turn into society, the way that we behave. And so I've had an interesting perspective, kind of studying a lot of the emerging frontier innovations and projects and leaders, and then being able to work to storytell in ways that those new stories of the world can connect with people through social media. So.
Thanks, Seth. And I understand that you are just getting Dollar Donation Club off the ground. And I'd love you to tell us more about Dollar Donation Club and how it has the potential to move planetary solutions and regeneration forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with the punchline and then I'll go into a little bit of the origin story. The punchline is that there's really no reason why a large global community could not galvanize around and unify around common causes that are extremely audacious and just give very small amounts, very micro contributions that in the whole would aggregate into tremendous sums of money that could actually solve problems. And so Dollar Donation Club is a platform that invites all of humanity to donate $1 per month towards funding very measurable and outcome-based social impact challenges. And so one of the things we're focused on as we're going to be launching over the next few weeks is not having too many different causes. This is one of the challenges, but to focalize and to really address a few very key ones in a big way with laser focus. So that's kind of the punchline. Now, just a little bit of an origin story. Back in 2016, I produced a video that got 28 million views and raised about $900,000 for a cause. And ever since then, as excited as I was about that, I felt like there was a lot of room for improvement, right? 28 million people raising $900,000. And the problem that I saw is that often when we're doing fundraising, we're attempting to say, just give as much as you can, right? Give as much as you can. We need every dollar counts. But what if we had a platform that provided those really good stories that showed us in a heartfelt way what's actually happening that needs solving, and then gave us the ability to just donate 10 or 25 cents. That was a question that I had after that video was, man, if all 28 million people could have easily just given a dime or a quarter, we could have raised a lot more. And more importantly, it would have put no financial strain on any one viewer, right? But we could have raised a lot more and actually solved something. So fast forward a few years, I've had the opportunity to test some of these micro donation concepts in real time. Last fall, in the fall of 2019, our production company Telepathic was hired to produce a conference for MAPS. A lot of you probably know who MAPS are. And during the conference, something interesting happened. One of the speakers was running really late. She had to run out of her Uber and go like straight onto the stage. And in her rush, she left her backpack with her laptop out in front of the venue. And unfortunately, it rolled off the curb and got run over by a car. So I'm at the production booth, handed this mangled, twitching, totally destroyed laptop. The speaker on stage has about 10 minutes left, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to break the news to her. And so that gave me the idea that we could test this micro donation concept in real time. So here's what we did. We jumped up on stage right after her talk and we said, hey everyone, this is Betty's laptop. It just got run over by a car, unfortunately. So everyone's attention locked on the stage. We said, we all know what it feels like, you know, in our community, we know what it feels like to lose something important to you, whether it's your phone or your passport or God forbid your laptop with all your work on it. So everybody could empathize with what was happening. And then we said, if everybody in this room just donated $1 or $2, nothing more, we could actually raise enough money to buy her a new laptop right now. We could solve this problem right now. So go ahead and pull out your phones. And what we did was we put two big QR codes up on the projector screens. One went to Venmo, one went to PayPal. And we just said, just give $1 or $2. You don't need to give more. But if we all do this, and this is the key, if we all do this together, then we can actually solve this. So within an hour, we'd raised $1,200. And we were able to buy Betty a much better laptop than what she had originally. And so it was really exciting. And it was exciting to see that a lot of people gave $1 or $2. Some people didn't listen to us and gave $5 or $10 or $20. And then one very generous individual gave $500. So within an hour, using the principles of community, storytelling, and a micro donation concept, we were able to raise $700 from a lot of micro donations and $500 from like, quote, the wealthy person in this small community that we tested this in. So that sort of proved a lot of the principles beneath the hood. And ultimately it prompted me to start thinking about, hey, this worked for a laptop. You know, what are the global laptops right now? What are the global broken laptops that we could fund that everybody could get on board with, could give just a small amount to seeing it realized? And that's the origin of Dollar Donation Club, is seeking to take on these very audacious global regenerative impact projects that are challenge-based. So one of our first big challenges is to plant 1 trillion trees over the next couple decades, and as soon as we can get it all funded. And so that's the origin. And the way that we look at it is that every challenge has a number of members that are required to give just $1 in order to reach the funding goal. So it's really more, it's not about the dollars you can give, it's about how many of us we can light up into a unified network, a unified mentality, a unified collective consciousness that's actually expressing itself through the energy of funding to realize very measurable impact. So that's what we're excited about building. We're going to be launching it in early June. And so yeah, very excited to go live with our pilot campaign, which will be to plant 1 billion trees. So yeah.
Thanks, Seth. I'm very excited about this initiative, and I think it really kind of highlights a shift in the perspective that, you know, it takes the wealthy or the governments or the corporations to fix the problems that we have on the planet, and really puts that back in the hands of community and allows people to actually be a part of stewarding the planet and solving humanity's problems. And, you know, I like from our previous conversations that what you said about humanity's checklist and, you know, all of the things that we need to get done in a short period of time, and how fast we need to move, and how much funding we need to get, you know, these solutions actually implemented. So this is a new approach, and it's something that allows everybody to be a part of the movement. It really is creating a movement. So how big do you want to go with this? Like, what kind of scale are you going for? You know, like, I'm curious, how big are you thinking?
Very big. As you said, so humanity's challenges right now are at a scale where even the billionaires couldn't fund all of it. It's going to take going beyond the scale of even putting a man on the moon, and that level of collaboration and funding. There's a lot of work to do. And the interesting thing, just to go back to the laptop example again, is that the $700 was raised by the micro, and the 500 was raised by the sort of, you know, call it the billionaire at the global scale. And so what we need to raise, and then focusing it on very efficient solutions that are 7 generations deep, that have a lot of regenerative principles under the hood. They might seem simple at the surface, but very deep analysis goes into those impact challenges. That's the level of contribution that we need. And so, to your point, we shouldn't waste much time trying to, you know, beg sort of the wealthy or the authoritative platforms of our current institutions in society to do these things. We can do them, right? We, the people, can do them. And you can kind of imagine the power of one big fish and then, you know, next to a small fish. But now take that small fish times, you know, 10 million, and it forms up a much bigger fish collectively. And so what's missing is the unity consciousness, the unity mentality, the ability for us to submit some of our ego and to get on board with lasering attention towards a few causes at a time and not fracturing ourselves all over the place. We're kind of taking a schizophrenic approach to solving global challenges right now. So that's the first thought that comes to mind. As you mentioned, humanity's checklist. Yes, when we think about the kind of global scale broken laptops, and we don't look at everything as broken by any stretch. There's just a lot to do, right? There's a lot of big challenges. We have the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are a good starting framework. And there's a lot to do. And the fun thing is actually trying to figure out, where can you stack solutions, right? So if you're gonna give $1 somewhere, is it possible that you can get not just one SDG, one sustainable development goal that you're working on solving, but 8 or 9 or 10, or how many could you stack into a very elegant solution? So those are the types of things that we're looking for. But scale, I mean, planting 1 trillion trees is at the scale, if not bigger than putting a man on the moon. It's a very audacious challenge that's going to require a large sort of flock mentality from many different organizations and corporations. Every sector of society needs to play a role in the regeneration of the planet. And this is just one way that we can harness funding from the people, and to laser it towards very effective, efficient, and elegant solutions.
It feels like a great time to be kind of looking at things with a new lens, you know, and it sounds like this is what this is a part of, you know, like it's like, how can we change the way that we approach our participation in society and as a civilization? You know, I'd love to ask what your reflections are on the opportunities you think that are available to us during this crisis of the great pause or the pandemic. You know, there's been a lot of conversations around what is the alternative to going back to normal, and what kind of a world do we choose moving forward? You know, what kind of a civilization do we want to be? And so I'm just wondering, you know, like, you know, what are the opportunities that you see right now on the other side of this?
Yeah, so the beauty of this moment in history is that it's giving a lot of time to reflect and to step back and sort of have a global meditation as we are not actively engaged in the buzz of beta brainwave activity, which doesn't really allow us to see things very clearly. And I think in the beauty of that, we have the ability to meditate on the separation mentality, the illusion of separation that we operate in on a very daily basis. It's very routinized into our society. And to start feeling into what would a more unity consciousness approach to solving problems look like. And that's sort of the underlying principle of Dollar Donation Club, is to invite an actual behavior that can represent unity, right? Because it's one thing for us to just talk about peace, love, and unity, and it's another to find ways that we can actually express that into the world. And that's the most important thing. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. right? And Buckminster Fuller talking about don't fight old paradigms, just create a new tool. That tool replaces the old paradigm. So we need to, in this time of reflection, we need to find ways to embody the philosophy of oneness, embody the philosophy of a unity consciousness, unity mentality, in ways that are relevant, that are meaningful, that don't go way beyond, that don't go beyond the capacities of the zeitgeist and society at large right now, but are meaningful. And so that's what I'm really excited about. And I keep thinking how wonderful it would be if once a decade, or even better, once a year, the world took a month to reflect and to have sort of like a maha siesta is the way I kind of think about it. It's really powerful, it's valuable, and it gives us an opportunity to pattern interrupt, make sure that the course we're on is a wise course. And if it's not, take that opportunity to course correct internally before we go back into activity.
Beautiful. Thanks, Seth. Well, being a master storyteller as you are, I'm wondering what kind of a new story you'd want to see for humanity and for this world for this regenerative decade and beyond.
Yeah, I think it's building off of a lot of the things I just said. It's the story that sees through the illusion of separation, right? And moving into a, I would say more kind of, we have our individual ego, and people like to kind of bash on the ego, but it serves a really important function. But to expand that sense of personal to a larger species level. So it's kind of like a meta-egoic consciousness where we start to see that serving myself is serving the whole. And that's one. And so hurting another or damaging something irreparably on the planet or being extractive is not actually helping me, because I am a part of this. I am a part of this web of life. That's the story that would ameliorate, if not solve, almost all of the problems that we see on humanity's checklist right now.
Could you tell me some of the tick boxes that need to be checked off on humanity's checklist?
Yeah, again, the Sustainable Development Goals provide a good framework. Some of the two big ones the Dollar Donation Club is going to be taking on out the gates are: one, plant 1 trillion trees, and two, cleaning up all ocean plastics and preventing them from going there in the first place. These are two very easy in the sense of it's common ground that no matter where you sit on a political, ideological, any spectrum, we can all agree that planting trees, regenerating the planet is a good thing. And cleaning up garbage that we toss in our beautiful ocean is a good thing. And rivers. And so it is important for us to find those common ground challenges that we can all contribute to. I'm personally very passionate about education and poverty. Very frequently, when you pull the thread of a lot of the challenges out there in the world right now, at the end of the thread, you find that there are people who are struggling at a very basic level. And that's what's causing a lot of these impulsive decisions. Kind of, you can think of it sort of like the fertilizer mentality, or which is sort of like or let's call it artificial fertilizer mentality, which is to pump something in a way that you can extract a lot of value from it quickly, but at the expense of its overall value, the asset's overall value. So we need to regenerate our planet. We don't have forever to figure that one out. We need to mobilize resources quickly to do it in effective ways. And we need to heal people. You know, inside, I mean, all of the damage that we do to the world and to the environment often starts with pain on a personal level. And so, yeah, getting into education, getting into solving root causes of poverty, these are very important challenges on humanity's checklist.
Thanks, Seth. And some would say that there needs to be a process of inner regeneration that happens for there to be outer regeneration of the planet. And I'm wondering if you have any tips or pointers as someone who's been very much on the wellness path, you know, on how people and how our viewers can actually I guess, sculpt their own inner regenerative landscape to be able to be effective in the outer world. And if there's any tips you might have for how they can be a part of planetary regeneration, whether it's personally or more with their community.
Yeah, so the truth is that the most important systems and infrastructure are internal, right? What we call values or virtues, these all, whatever we value internally ends up expressing itself as the architecture of society and our world. And that then has consequences to be extractive or regenerative, right? And so if we don't learn how to embody our philosophy, again, to embody the beingness of being regenerative, of being in harmony with nature, in seeing the meta-egoic kind of earth consciousness or human consciousness, not just individual egoic consciousness. That's the real work. You know, the real work starts there. It can take more time, and that's why sometimes we have to do things out in the world to make sure that there's not tremendous damage happening, where we need to employ systems that can be healing to ecological damage, which is, it's very important. But ultimately, the real paradigm shift has to happen internally. There is no other way. There's no system out there that will solve our problems. And I think one thing we tend to like to do is to blame something, right? It's nice to be able to blame money or, you know, government or some system, but we often forget that systems are totally inert. They are composed of people who drive those systems. There's always consciousness at the steering wheel. And that consciousness is either imbued with virtue and values of oneness or separation. And so the real paradigm shift has to be internal. There's really no other way to do it. Yeah. So personally, you know, I have a 10-year plus meditation practice. Without it, I wouldn't be able to create anything. It's the root of all creativity for me personally. And it's the kind of going back to that, wouldn't it be cool if we all took a month off once a year? It's those rhythms of breath in our personal life are so important. And if there's one thing that we can do, it's just to be able to step away for some time. We're often very locked into activity, and it's a very external story that drives us. We need to do things, but there's a tremendous power in being. And it's easy to downplay. It's easy to for people to say, oh, that's whatever, you know, woke crap or, you know, woo woo. But there's no other way for us to express wisdom in the world if we can't express it internally.
Well said. Thank you. So we're coming to the end of our time. I just have a couple more questions for you. Where can people find out more about your work?
Yeah, so right now, if you go to $donationclub.com, you can join our email list, and we're getting ready for a big launch to do our pilot campaign to plant 1 billion trees in early June. So it's going to be really important that when we launch, that we get a lot of people participating in this Unity financial experiment to give $1 per month. And because this won't work, right? If it's just 1,000 people or just 5,000 people, it's not going to work. This works when we light up the network of humanity in ways that we can actually produce enough energy in the form of financial energy to fund massive regenerative projects. And I truly in my heart believe this is one of the fastest ways that we can galvanize real action. So yeah, go to $donationclub.com, just enter your email for now, and in June, look out for the launch of our pilot campaign.
Super exciting, Seth. I'm very inspired and excited to see what comes of this initiative. So thank you for everything you're doing to get this off the ground on behalf of humanity and the planet.
Thanks, Becca.
Any final wisdom on how we can best find our place living in harmony with our planet, with our Earth?
I think just realizing that the largest organism is not an individual on the earth, it is the earth itself, and seeing yourself as part of that web, as part of this larger organism that is earth, that composes myriad different species, beings, animals, seeing yourself as part of that web. I think that's the one thing that I'm inspired about, and I'm excited to see that paradigm shift happen.
Well, thank you, Seth. It's been wonderful speaking to you today, and we look forward to the launch of Dollar Donation Club. And I'm Becca Dakini here at Voices of the Regenerative Decade on One Earth Live. It's been great to be with you today, and thanks again, Seth.
Thanks, Becca.
Mm-hmm.